It's nasty outside. Stormy and lightning and all kinds of stuff. It is Monday night. I had a long day today and I'm home now. It's 9:38 and I just ate my ground beef meal. And I'm sitting here watching The Office, and I just got back from the store as well, and I'm pretty excited. I don't know if you guys get excited about stuff like this, but I do. I got a new coffee. It is Dunkin' Donuts. I pronounce it Dulce de Leche. I don't know if that's right or not. Dulce de Leche is another way I've heard it, but yeah, it sounds pretty good. Apparently it's the favorite flavor contest winner. I'm gonna try it tomorrow. Let you guys know how it tastes. Speaking of taste, I have tried the new Total War flavor, rainbow candy, I think that's what it is. And it is actually really sour. So it tastes pretty good if you mix it in water, if you like sour stuff. But if you dry scoop it, which I've also done, be prepared to blow it out your nose. Ask Tyler, the other guy who works with me. First time I dry scooped it, it just shot straight out, like started coughing, and yeah, it's really sour. So, speaking of guys that I work with, being Monday, we had our live Q&A video at 2 o'clock today, and I'm gonna try to record some of these every week. Apparently my camera won't record the whole thing because it takes a long time, so I'm gonna insert little snippets every week from the live Q&As. So I'm gonna insert what I have from that. Yeah, let's just do it now. All right, so enjoy. If you have any questions that you want to submit for our next Q&A, that was a big thing of lightning. If you have any questions you want to submit for the next Q&A, comment below or email me at evanshoemaker32@gmail.com, and we'll try our best to get those answered for next time. Also, I will be doing a YouTube video answering any questions that V got from her YouTube channel, because I know that she made a video requesting questions for me, and then we'll do our best to get all of those answered as well. So, on to today's Q&A.
You haven't started your camera yet, have you?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, you're gonna get a close up of my crotch here.
That's fun. That'll be the
highlight.
Clickbait. Hey guys, welcome back to the live Q&A from your personal training staff at the Kanawha City Anytime Fitness. We are back with more questions. I think we have some good ones this week, and we kind of rotated our positioning so I didn't take over the good camera angle. So, you guys have anything before we get started?
As always, feel free as you watch to submit any questions you have. And if we get through all of our questions, we'll get to answering some of those, or we'll save them for next week. All right, so y'all ready?
Yep.
All right, so first question, should children lift weights? So question is kind of good timing here because we actually just unveiled our kids fitness program that Evan actually teaches. Short answer is yes, and it depends. So we're just going to go through here and give some opinions on why we think children do need to learn how to lift weights properly.
So, it's good for kids to lift weights, and not even necessarily weights, but just to stay active, especially with school these days. Kids spend a lot of time seated, sedentary, so getting them up, like I said, whether they're lifting weights or not, but just doing something active is going to be beneficial in the long run for kids.
Yeah, so we've kind of seen, I'm sure everybody has noticed a slight increase in childhood obesity. Seems to be a more common occurring thing, and having the children more active in any type of way is going to help. When it comes to actually lifting free weights, I know there's a lot of common misconceptions that people think that lifting free weights isn't good for kids, stunts their growth, yada yada yada. But when it comes down to it, you take an 8-year-old who is 100, 120 pound 8-year-old is not uncommon these days, and you have them trying to do a push-up, it's probably not going to be as easy as you would think. Now, if you were to set that kid under a barbell and a 45 pound barbell, or even if you use the lighter weight ones that are 30 pounds or 20 pounds, you'll probably see more of progression with something like that than you would putting them on a push-up. So it's little things like that, realizing that some of the bodyweight movements may work for some of the kids, whereas you need to be able to alter those into some of the free weights that will actually help out a little bit more.
Yeah, I think one thing to fully understand this question, we kind of have to go to why there is some apprehension about kids lifting weight in the first place. So even as little as 10 years ago, there were still books being published for sports organizations where they were talking, when you exercise, there is some muscle damage that occurs. That's on a micro level, and a lot of that got misconstrued to where every time you lift, you're causing extreme damage to muscles and muscle tearing. And a lot of parents and people involved in youth sports wanted to stay away from this because they thought it was an injurious activity rather than a way to actually start building functional movement and strength. That has been completely debunked. So, as long as a child is lifting properly, supervised, is doing appropriate weight, there's no long-term damage that's going to occur. The micro trauma to the muscle is a normal response, and everybody gets that. The other apprehension people have is growth plates. So think if you apply load onto developing kids, as you're growing taller, getting bigger, you have growth plates in the bones. So to where the bone grows from. So if you apply enough load, yes, you can cause trauma to the growth plate, but it would well exceed a child's ability level to actually cause that damage. You're not going to have an 8-year-old squatting 400 pounds, so you don't have to worry about that happening. So that being said, lifting weights is a huge benefit to kids. We have to be careful of the way that we progress it. You don't want to take every kid straight into weightlifting. We want to master the essentials first, teach them proper mobility, how to control their body weight really well. But like Evan said, not everybody can do a perfect form push-up the first time they try to do it. So as we're teaching them, the barbell or the dumbbells become a useful tool so that we build their form and their ability to control muscles and move properly as we progress them into body weight exercises. And then once that's mastered, then we progress into more advanced barbell and free weight exercises to start building some strength. As Tyler, I think, mentioned, kids nowadays, we're sedentary a lot. So you gotta think, from the time you start kindergarten really until you're through college, you spend a large portion of your day in a chair. And the human body was not meant to spend a whole lot of time seated in a chair. And the fact that we do spend all this time actually causes us to develop a lot of muscle imbalances. So kids, even as young as 8, 10 years old, they don't move the way that they're supposed to anymore. So you get muscle shortening where it's not supposed to be, you get muscle lengthening where it's not supposed to be, and what we're finding is that kids in middle school and high school are earlier and earlier starting to get hip problems and back problems and shoulder issues. And a lot of this is postural, and it's due to the way that everybody is sedentary. Not to mention the fact that being sedentary is a huge risk factor in terms of longevity and chronic disease. So we've got this class that we just started, and Evan does a really good job of breaking things down a lot to the kids, teaching them how to move properly while letting them have fun at the same time, so it doesn't feel like a job for them. So I'm just going to let Evan talk about his class a little bit. So what have you seen with the class?
So with the kids class, I like to split it up a little bit, and I'll take about half of the class, and we'll kind of go through little circuits where we're trying to keep them moving. I mean, we don't want to have the whole hour just sitting and teaching the whole time. We want them to have fun. We want them to move around and everything. So I throw in some basic movements and teach them along the way, but then I get to a point where each day I try to pick out a specific exercise, and we'll kind of sit down one by one and we'll learn that exercise. We've gone through barbell squats, bench press, front squats, deadlifts. Those are just, I mean, some of the basic compound movements that are good to learn. And then every now and then at the end we'll throw in a little competition. You know, I've given out some prizes and stuff like that. But yeah, just keeping them moving and having them learn those basic movements is really what we try to focus on. And trying to filling in the hour is kind of tough because the kids move. I mean, they're nonstop. You know, with a group class that we have at 5 o'clock, you know, you could have 6 rounds, but if I put the kids through those same 6 rounds, they'll finish it in half the time.
Right. What kind of progress have you seen with the kids? Are they moving a lot better?
They're moving a lot better with the specific exercises that, you know, I've kind of included in all the circuits. You know, they've learned the movements a lot better. They look more comfortable with it. Their weights have even gone up a little bit, so they're increasing some of their strength. And they're feeling more comfortable in the gym as a whole, so they're not, you know, nervous coming in here. So I've seen really good progress with them.
Good. You know, all of us here have trained kids in the past, so kind of one thing I wanted to go over, what areas, when we're talking about working with kids, do you feel like are big areas that need to be addressed?
For a lot of the kids I train, it's teaching them to slow down, and Evan kind of touched on it, learn, I think you did, learn how to feel the muscles move, get that mind-muscle connection going. A lot of them just want to blast through, which is fine in a way, but you want to, when you start trying to speed through exercise, there's a bigger risk for injury. So you kind of have to pull them back, remind them, you know, slow down, let's make sure we're doing everything right here.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm training kids, a couple of the biggest areas that we address are mobility, which normally, I mean, you shouldn't have to work with a kid on mobility, but like I said, because of school and being sedentary, we do. So getting them moving properly again, and coordination. So with kids, they're growing, they haven't fully figured out their bodies yet, so a big part of the training is actually just getting them comfortable with their own body, learning how it moves, how they need to balance themselves. And you know, it doesn't just help from an athletic standpoint, it helps a lot later on in life. They're going to be a lot less likely to experience chronic pain or chronic illnesses as they get older. So that being said, we teach Kids Fit. It's twice a week, right?
Yes, Monday and Wednesday.
At
1.
1 o'clock. So if you've got kids or you know anybody who has kids and they're looking for a way to get them active over the summer, bring them in. We'd love to have them. That being said, we'll go ahead and move on to question 2. All right, so the next question says, I've been working out for a while and I've stopped losing weight. What's going on? So this one, I mean, it could be a couple of different factors here. Really depends on what kind of workout you're doing, and also depends on you know, how you're eating at the time. So a big one that we get this a lot with when people are working out for a while and then there's a sudden stoppage in weight loss or progress. Most of the time they're doing what type of exercise?
Cardio.
Cardio,
Listen
exactly.
of cardio.
Yep. So we've talked about this a lot. We talk about it a lot with the people that we work with. Cardio per minute does burn a lot of calories, but as we do cardio chronically, so we're talking a month, 2 months of doing a lot of cardio where we're doing 30 to 90 minutes and worth of work. Eventually, the body starts to become more efficient, and we start burning fewer calories doing the same amount of activity. So, usually 3-4 weeks in, you're going to notice increased weight loss from doing more cardio. But after that honeymoon period, you're going to start noticing that you start losing less and less weight, and you start having to do more and more and more activity to see that scale move again. And that's a trap you don't want to fall into. So, like we talk about a lot on here, you want to focus a lot of what you're doing on strength, functional movement, building a little bit of muscle. Use diet to an extent as your means for actually losing weight. And then once you've exhausted those means and we don't want to drop your calories anymore, then we're going to start adding in extra cardio. You want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so your body is really good at adapting to any external stimulus. So if you're doing something repeatedly over and over for many weeks at a time, you're going to hit that wall, and whether it's with eating or exercising, your body's going to hit that wall, and then you have to have something that's going to snap it out of it, and kind of put your body into the, oh gosh, what's going on? And then that's when you're going to see, you'll get over that plateau, and you'll start making the progress that you want.
You just have to watch when you hit that plateau, because some people hit the plateau. It happens to everyone, so it's not a big deal. It's what you do when you hit that plateau. So some people will get there and say, well, I've hit as much weight as I can lose, or I'm as strong as I can get, whatever your goal is, and then they just kind of fall off. So just make sure that if you do hit that plateau, maybe you're working out on your own and you've been doing good, you hit that plateau, that's when you need to seek some help and look for a trainer or someone that knows a little more.
Right, so even with strength training, like we talked about, you can still hit a plateau if you don't ever change things up. So just brings on the importance of actually using periodization to your advantage. So you don't want to get stuck on the same rep ranges for too long or the same type of exercise. You've got to switch it up every now and then. The other thing is, you don't always need to focus on that number on the scale as well. So, when you're first starting to work out, you may lose a little extra weight than you will later on. And whereas later on, so the reason why is later on you actually might be building muscle at a similar rate to where you're losing body fat. Whereas at first, a lot of those strength changes were neurological. Now we're actually starting to get into some changes in the actual muscle tissue, where you're growing muscle tissue, and we can kind of get like a balancing effect where you may have lost 1.5 pounds of body fat, but you may have gained 1 pound of muscle. So on the scale, only shows that you lost 0.5 pound. So part of that is just not getting too caught up on the scale. And that's why we use multiple different forms of tracking here. We don't just track your weight. We track body fat percentage, we track circumferences, so that way we can show you exactly what's happening when the scale isn't showing what's actually happening in your body. You got anything else there?
Did you put it on Wi-Fi? Is it still on Wi-Fi? I think we're having a little bit of a connection there.
Some of it's kicking out.
Okay, so it's still again.
A little bit.
Okay, put it off Wi-Fi real quick.
Pardon Anthony's hand.
Yeah.
We're trying to fix connection, guys.
a nice hand.
There's a little bit of delay.
All right. So if it's working again, question 3: are cheat meals and cheat days a bad thing?
So I actually just watched a video kind of talking about this last night, and the main point was, if you're on like a crash diet or a fad diet, for one, those don't work long term. So you need to find a diet that works for you, with things on it you like to eat. Because if your diet consists of a lot of things you're not going to eat, you don't like eating, you're not going to stick to it. And another point was, don't think of it as a cheat meal, like you're doing something bad. See it more of a reward. So, I did really good for 2 weeks. I'm going to have something because I want it. That way, when you have it, it doesn't make you feel so much as I was bad and fell off my diet. It's more of a reward. You feel better after you do it because you've given yourself something you wanted. Then you can go right back to your normal diet that you're good on, and you don't feel like you're falling off.
I've had a lot of people who I've helped out with their diet, and they want to not have a cheat meal. So they'll be like, don't give me a cheat meal because I'll go crazy, or whatever their excuse is. And to be honest, like anybody who I work with, I recommend having at least one cheat meal, not a cheat day, per week. And like Tyler said, you kind of want to use that as a reward system, because a lot of people, they'll start on a clean diet and it's pretty much a shock to them how, you take out even the littlest bit of sugar and their body just goes haywire, and they start dreading eating and everything like that. So having that cheat meal like on a Saturday night, it gives you something to look forward to. It's kind of a reward system, and I mean, sometimes it can be a shock to your metabolism as well, depending on how long you've been on the diet or something like that. So I highly recommend at least one cheat meal, depending on your goal and your body type, per week. So
right. So go ahead.
One thing I've found with that is, if you really want something, eventually, no matter how strong your willpower is, you're probably going to break. So go ahead and give it to yourself before you hit that breaking point. Because when you hit that breaking point, you're probably going to splurge and go all out, rather than if you say, okay, on Saturday I can have this, you're going to moderate it a little more and be more in control of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, like they both talked about, try to keep away from the negative connotation of the word. So try not to call it a cheat meal. There's actually a big psychological factor there. Just the fact that we think something is bad for us, or we think that something is a cheat, there are actually some physiological processes that can start happening in the body that make that meal actually affect you even more than it would just from a structural standpoint. So a meal may have 1,000 calories, but if you think that it's awful for you, that 1,000 calories is going to affect you more than if you were okay with the fact that you were eating and you didn't think of it negatively. So the mind is a crazy thing, and it can do some crazy things. So that's why I try to stay away from the whole concept of cheat meals. Now, another thing with that is you kind of have to understand yourself as well. So if you're the kind of person who is going to take a cheat meal and turn it into a cheat day, or is going to go way overboard on a cheat meal, then you're probably better off giving yourself something small every day that feels like a reward, rather than saving it all for one big blowout meal. Because if you're cutting 250 calories off of your diet a day, and then eating 2,000 calories over your diet on one day, then you're actually going to have a net weight gain rather than the weight loss. So if you're somebody who's prone to binge eating, I would suggest not doing a cheat meal and sticking more to like a flexible dieting approach where you've got some room in your diet to have small treats here and there. And the key is small. You don't want to go overboard with any of those. Now, I guess the next part of that is, when can a reward meal actually be beneficial? So, Evan hinted on this a little bit, but as you are cutting calories, as you are dieting down, you're going to start, as you're in a caloric deficit long enough, your body and your thyroid is actually going to start trying to meet that energy consumption level. So eventually you were at a 500 calorie deficit, but as you go longer and longer into your cut, eventually your metabolism actually drops a little bit, and that 500 calorie deficit now becomes a 100 calorie deficit, or a 50 calorie deficit, or even a no calorie deficit. So when that's starting to occur, you can actually use that spike in calories to kind of give your metabolism that extra boost and kind of bring that up a little bit. Key is, don't let it get to that point in the first place, but that's one of the ways that you can use those refeeds or reward meals. I guess another way would be if you're an athlete and you're looking at like carb loading, and you're doing like a depletion workout where you're using all of your stored carbohydrates, and then trying to prep for like a sporting event where you want ample energy stores. So in that sense, those are called like refeeds, where you're going to eat more carbohydrates than you normally would to try and completely fill your muscle cells with the energy and be able to perform a little higher. So those are ways that you can use reward meals to your advantage. You got anything on those?
No, you pretty much covered it.
Okay. Alright, so next question. I've heard that I need carbs and protein immediately after I work out. Is that true?
I'm taking this one.
You can start if you want.
Okay, so no, that's not true. The anabolic window isn't as short as what people think. As long as you're getting enough carbs, protein, fats to replenish what you used in your workout within 24 hours, you're good.
When it comes to the carbs, having carbs post-workout is, like with the last question, trying to refill your muscles with those carbohydrates. And you have, let's see if I can put this the right way. You're more insulin sensitive.
Yes.
After exercise, is it like 30 to an hour window? 30 minutes to an hour window?
It actually lasts a little bit longer than that. You're more insulin sensitive, probably up to about 4 hours.
Okay, so there's a 4-hour window around there where you're more insulin sensitive, so you're going to reuptake some of those carbs after your workout. But like Tyler said, it's not as short of a window as people think. People think they need to have a shake with their carbs like directly after their workout. And if you see me doing that, the only reason that I'm doing that is because that's the only time that I have really to down my shake really quick before I start my work. And if you're in that case, if you're in a rush, like feel free to drink your shake after a workout as well. But it's not as short of a window post-workout as what people think.
Right. That being said, just because something isn't necessary doesn't mean there's not a benefit to it. So, when we're talking about exercise, and we talked about this before on these Q&As, but you're causing some micro trauma, so you have to recover. So the faster you start getting nutrients in after a workout, the quicker that recovery process actually starts. So there is some benefit on that end. That being said, unless you're working out twice a day and you're going to work out again that day, then the concern is more total protein and total carbohydrate intake. So like we talked about before, the anabolic window, realistically, you've got elevated protein synthesis levels for about 24 hours. So as long as you're getting, your 0.8 to a gram per pound of protein in for that day. That doesn't really matter if it's 30 minutes after your workout or 3 hours after